Welcome all. Paula Chiocchi, CEO of Outward Media for the B2B Influence podcast. Today, our guest is Reed Hansen. He is the Chief Growth Officer at Market Search. Welcome, Reed.
Thank you so much, Paula. Really
Glad
glad
to
to
have,
be here.
good, glad to have you on. He's from Chicago. I love Chicago. So today, we're going to focus on how performance-driven strategies replace guesswork with measurable growth. Is going to share how data-backed targeting, funnel optimization, and intent-based audiences help B2B companies turn ad spend into scalable revenue-focused outcomes. That is a mouthful. So
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's right. I'm glad that you gave that preview. I'm gonna be as try easy on the ears as possible.
absolutely. So I know you've worked with companies from startups to Fortune 500s like we have.
Yeah.
What's the biggest shift that you've seen in how B2B organizations approach digital growth over the past year, and how is Market Surge helping clients adapt to that shift?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there has been a lot of disruption in the traditional marketing channels, counting on SEO best practices that existed for many years. All of a sudden, that's like on its head with the way Google is categorizing knowledge snippets above the websites themselves. Ads themselves are becoming a little less effective, more expensive because I guess these companies need to make more money, but their audiences aren't necessarily growing. The more effective content is shifting to short form video, and there is a little bit of a black box in how content gets found and referenced in the AI
Mhm.
chats themselves. So there's been a lot of upheaval, a lot of disruption. The companies I'm working with of course, are concerned and they're relaying that my spend isn't as effective as it used to be. My efforts aren't as effective as they used to be. And I don't know what to do with AI. And the one thing that I've been telling them to start with is start generating more short form video.
Mhm.
And that's the place I've referred them to start. And the SEO, as I've seen, it's changing and I have encouraged them to think about the long tail keywords more so like freight, like questions people will type in.
Mhm.
People used to do that into the search engines occasionally. Sometimes they just type plumber.
Yeah.
And that was pretty straightforward. You embed plumber as a keyword all over your website, but then they would see that feel a little bit more confident in the search engine. Then they say, "What's the best plumber near me that can help with foundation leaks?" Or they start to get more specific and trust the engine to recommend somebody more focused. And those kinds of searches do seem to carry over to the AI engines. And so you need to think about what questions does your business answer and generate content focused on answering those questions and demonstrating how you do.
Seems like
Go ahead.
it also seems just reading yesterday, like the 18 to 29-year-old age group, they're not using Google. They're going straight to Chat GPT.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's a significant percentage that have, and I think we're going to see a generation that just maybe they'd never touch Google
Mhm.
search. They just go straight to GPT. And I know they're, I talk to my daughters and they're like, I've never used corded phone.
Oh, well, of course.
Yeah,
What's that?
exactly. Or what they see on a TV
Can
show
you
that's like,
show me a picture of the relic?
yeah, exactly. Or that like, how did that even work? And it looks
Yeah,
so complicated,
I
the
know.
rotary, but and they just use
Yeah,
phones much differently than we
yeah,
do.
yeah.
And so it's obviously there's a lot of upheaval but it's funny. I think there's two like funnels you need to go or two directions you need to go. I think as a business leader or an executive, anybody that people would associate with the brand, I think getting your face, getting your writing, getting your genuine engagement online is very valuable. And that's why I say short form video.
Mhm.
That's think like TikTok
Yep.
duration and then being able to answer questions maybe that aren't asking, try to anticipate future questions that your business is answering and try to be interesting. That's
Yeah, exactly. And then put a face to it,
yeah,
the human element to it. And we do outbound acquisition email marketing
right.
and one of the things that we're counseling now is to do what you just suggested is a short video because especially in the smaller businesses, which is 80% of the market. Having that little video, the human element to a CEO in an email about whatever your product or service is, I think they tend to open that email more.
Yeah,
To your
they do.
point. To your point.
Yeah, and even I think even just the sometimes you have the still image, the
Mhm.
thumbnail from the video, and it just seems like it's a weightier piece of content. It's like, oh, there's video, there's more. Like even if I just do the overview or read the title, it's like something more substantial. And there's somebody that I could talk to at some point
Think
that I could
about
work.
even before Zoom, right?
Yeah.
None of that was going on. And as we both know, it's moving exponentially fast, what
Mhm.
everybody's where they're moving and what they're trying to decide to do, but totally agree with you on the video.
Yeah.
So when it comes to audience targeting, what's your process for building a campaign strategy that actually moves the needle? And
Yeah.
are there common data gaps that prevent brands from reaching the right buyer at the right time?
Great question. So the process for building an audience is, I think you do have to start with a combination of hard data, like demographic data that you can either pull from your current database and then prioritize those customers. Does one group present more future growth? Does one group generally spend more or easier to acquire, like shorter
Okay.
sales cycles, something like that? So
Mhm.
you pick what are the metrics that define your ideal client, and then you take some I would build an ideal customer profile,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of ways you could do it. You can search in ChatGPT for how to do it, but I like to generate like a one pager and apply like a photo of somebody that would fit in that demographic,
Yeah.
just to help visualize and maybe give this person a name. List out the demographic details, but then also add in other interests that are peripheral to your service. So if you're doing a home service, like where do these people, what kind of home do they live in? Is it single family or multi-unit? Do they live in the suburbs or the urban setting, or do they?
How would you relate it to B2B?
Oh,
Because we're focusing on
yeah,
B2B today.
exactly. No,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, great question. And sorry that there is some carryover and be to your point, I do work with both B2C and B2B, but in the
Sure.
B2B realm, you do want to know these people as individuals, but you do
Mhm.
want to add the extra layer of what in their business role is their concern. So you, in addition to the demographic details I described, describe their job level. Is it their VP, C level? And what are their key initiatives or the questions that your business answers for them?
Yeah.
And, are you going to save them money? Are you going to help them grow or reduce headcount
Ed.
yeah, exactly, overhead or help them through a difficult situation they just don't have the expertise to
Mhm.
do. No, so knowing that is really valuable. And then you can then derive a lot of some of the qualitative concerns that are like hard to add quantity
Mhm.
to. So like take one of your clients that you work with. What do they do outside of work? Are these people
Mhm.
that are very social or very introspective? And how do they like to communicate? Are they heavy social media users, or are they just completely turn off the computer every time they can? And so knowing those factors, you can define it at the individual level and then also at the business level. If you can gather that profile image as
Which, by the way, is doable.
yeah, it
We
is.
had a guy, a gentleman for AI recently, and they tested. It was an IT product, and they just assume IT guys all think the same, right?
Right.
And they tested two different creatives, and 50% kind of went with one, and 50% the other, and they had to just using what you just mentioned, the
Yeah.
demographics and potentially psychographics, and then testing to get that message that they thought universally would be accepted by one functional title group.
And so from my years at Oracle, when I was working in sales and marketing there, there was a very different personality of the buyer for the database license
Mhm.
than there was for like the big data appliances. There you've got like one who's trying to manage costs and security, and another who was optimistic and looking for potential growth venues. And so like knowing what question you can answer with your service or product is pretty critical.
Knowing the audience and what the pain point is,
Exactly.
and then how you fit into the pain point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy, and it's getting more difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
They cut through
And
the noise. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, then that's a great, I'm sure as whenever you're engaged in an outreach, you're competing with dozens, if not hundreds of emails that come into any B2B buyer's inbox on a daily basis. And so, yeah, being the most tailored is going to be the ones that stick out.
And I think the latest thing I read was that 70% of the B2B buyers are now millennials. So communicating
Yeah,
how they like to be communicated to as well. And they don't really want to talk to anybody until they're probably 80% the way through the process. So the more information you can give them in your outreach as they go down that journey of trying to make their decision is probably going to give you a better outcome on the back end, hopefully.
right. Yeah, and no, I think that's excellent. And having like links to support your points in your email, really valuable. I received an email this morning, somebody trying to do a partnership, and all they said is like, "We'd like to do a partnership. Can we talk?" I'm like, "No, delete." I'm sorry, like you didn't even tell me what service you offer, and I am
I
not gonna.
cannot believe those kind of emails get approved to go out by anybody. I get them too. I'd like to do business with you. Let's talk. I'm like, about what?
Not what?
What are you going to do for me? Right?
Give me something. Yeah, yeah,
So notice on your site you mentioned surge audiences, which
yeah,
seems to focus on using behavioral intent signals to identify in-market buyers, which we're a big proponent of.
yeah.
Can you walk us through how you use it in practice for what you all do and how you help brands activate against those signals effectively?
You bet, you bet. And we've joined a network and we have access to behavioral data. So people that have searched for key terms. And I'm not saying that we're unique in that aspect. There are a lot of ways you could go, but we are able to find individuals that have searched for certain terms, like long tail keywords,
Yep.
like I described earlier, and generate those on a 48-hour rolling basis. So if
Mhm.
they've searched for a certain term in the last 48 hours and we can isolate it to a geography, and we can deliver that
Mhm.
contact information.
Mhm.
And very helpful because behavioral data is a great indicator that they're in the buying mood, buying time frame, and
Much higher likely.
yes, much higher likely. It's if you're using like meta ads versus Google ads, the Google ads will be inherently more expensive because they were actually looking to buy something and they were like proactively doing it. On Meta, the approach typically is a little bit more informative or educational, that like generally they're interested in sailing or skiing or something. And but you don't know that second they were looking for it.
Yeah.
With Google and behavioral data, so you can, if you have a pixel on your website, that's a great thing that you can pull in. You do know that they were actively looking and
We've seen it from the programmatic, social, and
hmm,
outbound email, acquisition email.
yeah,
When we've done control group, just the straight campaign versus the using the behavioral data, and it usually doubles the action. Whether it's
right.
clicking on the links in the email or clicking on the ad or what have you. It usually doubles on average.
Yeah, and that's a
Hugely.
value there. Yeah, you probably there are networks you can subscribe to like that, but then you can also use things like geofencing. There are vendors that provide that. One cool project we worked on with a photographer that focused on bridal portraits was we geofenced a lot of the bridal dress shops in the area,
Mhm.
and we're able to find people whose cell phones had crossed the geofence threshold, and we're able to target them based on entering a bridal shop. And so those are people that were obviously exactly
Yeah,
who shops for bridal
absolutely.
photography. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
I think you see that also with storefronts. We do a lot of work with the telecom industry, and we don't actually support that area, but I think to your point, they use the geofencing around the stores,
yeah,
and it's another way.
yeah, yeah. Data from conventions too. You can
Mhm.
often buy the attendee lists if you were a participant. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
like as a exhibitor, or
Mhm.
if you, some will just allow you to purchase those lists.
Mhm.
Bridal shows are great. Other venues that are adjacent to your product, those are people
Mhm.
you definitely want to target because it's recent, it's fresh.
And you can take that data and get it from a B2B perspective. You can take that data and get it overlaid with the firmographics, the size of the company, and get the contacts in and around even the contact that was there that might
Exactly.
be your title or function to promote to as well. And now that we're seeing people going a little bit more to conferences and post-COVID, right? That pretty much was shut down for a while, but we're seeing a lot more activity that way.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And essentially, you're like anybody else if you purchase lead lists or try to match people on like from LinkedIn profiles. But if you start adding in the behavioral data from the
Mhm.
ways you can gather it, like you said, I've seen some significant uplift. And I was going to say I'd seen the opposite, the 50% lower costs of acquisition on ads purchases, and but which is the same as you're saying, twice as much activity on the email campaign. Really valuable
Time
data.
and again too. It's not,
Yeah.
it's over and over again. So even
Mhm.
people that are, I don't know if that works.
Yeah, definitely
Well,
does.
try it out, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
so you've talked about funnel optimization and CRO as central to market surge's work. Once a campaign is live, how do you evaluate success across the funnel from media engagement to actual revenue impact?
Yeah, it is helpful to have a tool that can monitor all of these. So from outreach to the actual sale in one place. Now, sometimes you can do that in a CRM that has outbound email capabilities. Sometimes you can't, but you can always leverage dashboards that can chain data and create like a virtual funnel to really evaluate that. So the funnel concept, obviously, you start from the top, the most people you contacted, and then you go from there. Did they interact with your
Mhm.
outreach? Did they schedule a call? Did they then ask for pricing? And then boy, those are at a high level are the rough funnel for most businesses. And you should know the percentage of what converts from one stage to the next. And if there's any unusual aberrations, like you've got a fat part of the funnel, or if it goes straight at any point, that means you need to feed more people into the prior step. Or if it comes too sharp, that means that your execution at one stage is failing, and you should optimize. Do you need to change your messaging? Do you need better sales practices? Do you need more lead, and do you need to spend more your outreach or ads?
I think that's an area, Reed, that people don't always follow through on. In terms of even the big companies, I'm
Yeah.
talking even Fortune 2000, you get the
Mhm.
data into the funnel and then they fall down there in terms of they don't do the nurture tracks or the messaging, what have you. I mean, is that something that Market Surge assists with your clients?
We do.
Okay.
And so the first thing is you have to have good data, because everybody will say, yeah, we can monitor that, but I'm also getting sales from outside. I get like word of mouth that I don't put in the system. It's like you really can't do anything unless you have all of your sales data in one view. And so that's always the priority. Because there's always some exception. Oh yeah, she paid in cash, so I didn't put it in the system. Don't do that. Make sure you're aggregating this all somewhere. And then once we have that, sometimes it becomes obvious. Sometimes this would be an unusual situation, but I'm like, everybody that comes in through ads ends up buying. It's like, it sounds like you need to spend infinity dollars on ads because you're converting everybody. But if you're converting a very high percentage, that means you just need to keep feeding that funnel until it
But I wonder
until
if
it
that's really
stops.
reality, that they're really
Yeah.
converting everybody. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Even at a
But
100% conversion rate.
usually what that indicates is that they are only recording the incoming leads that book, and they're going backwards, and they're saying, oh yeah, they're not recording the ones that didn't book.
But if they're doing it that way, then it means that you're a genius.
I know.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You found the fountain of youth, or
Yeah.
maybe you're an alchemist.
Nirvana.
Exactly. So good data is really critical. And then knowing, sometimes I frequently see people, they make their funnels way too long. They have 12 steps, which is too much. They're usually describing more of their process, their own sales process that happens internally, rather than the customer's decision-making process. Because if you at first, they need to establish contact and they consider your product, and then they need to meet with you, and then they need to see the definition of whether it's pricing, timeline, or what all the implications of a project are. And then they need to purchase. And you could think of four large stages. And if it's substantially more than four steps, it's not, yeah, if you're above 10, that's not really the customer's decision making. That's you saying that like it's been handed off to a bunch of different employees, And the customer really just needs to get through those steps in their brain to
Hmm.
to engage with you in business. So sometimes it's simplify that sales funnel, and in that way you can tailor your process or simplify it around getting them to the next step.
So boil it down rather than making it complicated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I find I usually don't see people with overly simplistic funnels. The tendency I've observed is people tend to make it more complicated.
More so than it needs to be.
No more than it
Yeah.
needs to be. Yeah,
So then that's one of your areas of expertise. You can help them refine that.
absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, because we want to think from the customer's view, and it's helpful from a process standpoint to know all the people that need to touch a deal to make it happen. But in the end, really, you do need to always think customer first and purchase first, and not hold up a deal because of something that is waiting for approval on your side. That should be so seamless in the background,
Hmm.
decision maker doesn't realize it.
So my last question, my favorite question, or one of them, is looking ahead, what's one shift or trend you believe B2B marketers can afford to ignore if they want to drive real scalable growth in the next 1 to 2 years? And I'm going to guess what you're going to say, but go ahead.
Yeah, I bet I'm going to say exactly what you guessed, but I think B2B marketers need to be extremely comfortable with using AI. And
Agree with you.
yeah, you need to you need to advance your capabilities beyond just conversing with the agent. I think you need to be at the point where you're starting to chain together applications that you can use like make.com or other tools that you are bringing data from one place to another, combining data, synthesizing that to get good information and delivering. That's really delivering value and thinking through like what data needs to be connected to other data, what can AI speed up in my process. And I'd add too that I think you just need to continue to cultivate your critical thinking skill.
Which they're saying
Yeah.
ChatGPT is taking away. You got to
Yes.
be cognizant of that.
So you need to resist that
Mhm.
tide, and because if our critical thinking skills erode, then there's no difference between us and and then you just type what do I need to know, and the GPT just does all your thinking for you. You need to think, what is a creative way I could solve this problem? Or what are new things that are happening? What are news events that are happening that inform better approaches to problem solving? And
And they help bring that in, but then, as you mentioned, I think the great word you use was synthesize it. Then you have to synthesize it. Because I see recently the CEO of not ChatGPT, NVIDIA, and he
mm,
said he has three different platforms that he puts all his whatever it is he's trying to solve do, and then he takes all the three answers and then blends them together and takes the best of the three to
yep.
inform his decision making. And that's the CEO of NVIDIA, so the biggest
Yeah,
company in the United States.
I
So there
know.
you go, right? He's even doing it.
Yeah, I'm sure
So
his biggest problem is how do I spend $1 trillion?
yeah, yeah, it's a phenomenal American story, right?
Yeah, he's doing great.
So Reed, this has been great. If somebody
Yeah.
wants to have a chat with you of how potentially market search can help them, how would they get a hold of you?
Thanks so much, Paula. My email is reed, R-E-E-D, at marketsurge.io, and my website is marketsurge.io. So I would be happy to chat with anybody, network, or if you are in need of marketing services, I would love to chat.
I highly recommend you reach out to them. Thank you, Reed. Enjoyed having you today.
Thanks so much.